Everybody hear me? This is Todd.
Video. Okay. There we go. And then you want to mute it or leave it on?
Turn off.
You don't have to go back.
There we go.
Feed you.
All right, all
And
right.
if you have any other questions, give me the high sign.
Okay.
I'm gonna look like an octopus trying to put on vacation.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, good evening. And welcome to the April 8th, 2001 Little Rock Planning Commission meeting. So we'll go ahead and get started with a roll call and the finding of a quorum.
Planning Commission roll call. Craig Berry.
Here.
Harold Benton.
Here.
Derek Brooks. Derek Brooks. Am I seeing Mr. Commissioner Brooks on mute?
Present.
Thank you. Was that you, Commissioner Brooks?
Yes, sir.
Scott Hamilton,
Present.
Todd Hart,
Present.
Marlon Haynes, Commissioner Haynes.
It just showed, he just joined. I don't know if he's on mute or what.
I'm not seeing Commissioner Haynes. For the general public, just be informed that we're having to use alternative and offsite communication methods, and from time to time, we have a little glitch, so we have to slow down and address it.
Tim, if we just proceed with the rest of the roll call, we'll come back to
Okay.
Mr. Haynes.
Robin Ramon,
Present.
Diana Thomas,
Present.
Michael Vickers,
Present.
Robbie Vogel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next item up will be our consent deferral.
Actually,
that's our
Mr.
minutes.
Chair, that'll be
Yeah.
the minutes.
Yeah, also, yeah, has to approve our minutes from the last meeting of March 11th, 2021. All the commissioners had a chance to review.
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, with that,
Second.
got a motion?
Second.
Motion and second?
Roll call vote. Barry,
Aye.
Benton,
Aye.
Brooks. Commissioner Brooks. I'm seeing he's muted on my monitor here.
Aye.
I'm hearing aye, but I'm not seeing Commissioner Brooks' lips move.
I saw him. He said it.
Okay. Hamilton,
Aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Haynes. Ramon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Vickers,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
The motion passes. The minutes from the previous planning commission meeting are approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we can move forward to the consent deferral.
The following are the consent deferral items. The first one is item D, that is file number Z9561, rezoning from R2 to AF. That is 18601 Cooper Orbit Road. The applicant failed to complete the required notifications to surrounding property owners. Staff recommends this application be deferred to the May 13th, 2021 agenda. The second item on consent deferral is item 7, and that is file number Z7898-D. That's Cross Street Elderly Housing, a revised PRD at 1012 Cross Street. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on March 24th, 2021, requesting this application be deferred to the May 13th, 2021 Planning Commission agenda. Staff supports the deferral request. This concludes reading of the consent deferral.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
Are we splitting up the deferrals versus the consent agenda? Is that something new? Okay.
We can continue with consent approval if you
Well, I'd
care to.
to know if the process changed. Thank you.
All right, shall I proceed?
Absolutely.
Consent deferral consists of item A, that is file number S-1885, Chenal Valley, Tract 9, preliminary plat, west of Chenal Parkway and Rawling Road intersection. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat and associated variances, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. The next consent approval item is item C. That's file number LU 2021-13-01, land use plan amendment from industrial to commercial in the 65th Street East Planning District at the northwest corner of Interstate 30 and Scott Hamilton Drive. Staff recommends approval. The next consent item is item C.1. That is file number Z-9563, rezoning from PID to C4 at the northwest corner of Interstate 30 and Scott Hamilton Drive. Staff recommends approval of the requested C4 zoning. The next item is item E, file number Z-9103-B, and that is 10115 Rodney Parham Road. Staff recommends approval of the conceptual PCD application as revised by the applicant, subject to the following conditions. 1, compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. 2, permitted uses for the development will be as per the revised list submitted by the applicant, meaning C3 permitted uses, an edited list, and car wash. Again, that staff recommends approval. That concludes item E. The next item on the consent agenda is item F, file number S-1884, Watershed Point preliminary plat at the northeast of Divide Parkway and Chenal Parkway. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat and associated variances, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. The next consent item is item 1. That's file number S-1896, Ada Lane subdivision preliminary plat at 718 Ada Lane. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat, subject to compliance with the following conditions. 1, compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Condition 2, a construction permit for the installation of septic systems on all lots must be obtained from the Arkansas Department of Health prior to completion of a final plat for this subdivision. The next item on the consent agenda is item 2, that's file number Z-9575, Reynolds accessory dwelling conditional use permit at 2200 South Harrison Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP and associated variances, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E in the staff analysis and the agenda staff report. The next consent agenda approval item is item number 5. That's file number Z8531-B. Alicia 126 Investments, ATV Sales and Repair Wheel and Tire Shop. Revised PCD at 3618 Baseline Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning subject to the following conditions. 1, compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E in the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. 2, there are to be no test rides or test drives of the ATVs at this location. 3, any outdoor display must be taken in at the end of each business day. The final consent approval item is item 6. That is file Z9508-A. Posh Automotive, PCD, at 8900 and 8916 Colonel Glen Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning subject to the following conditions. Compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F in the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Condition number 2 is all vehicles on the site must be parked in designated parking spaces. No vehicles are to be parked in the drives, along the street, or any other non-designated parking area. This concludes the consent agenda, comprised of consent deferral and consent approval.
Chair, before a motion is made, I'll need to recuse myself from the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, consent agenda has been presented. Any comments from commissioners? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
We need a motion on the consent deferral separately from motion on the consent.
No, we don't. Yeah, we can do it all as one.
So, Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda together with the consent deferral, along with any comments and conditions in the staff agenda report, as well as any comments and conditions set forth.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval. Is there a second by chance?
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Barry.
Aye.
Benton.
Aye.
Brooks. Brooks.
Aye.
Hamilton.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Haynes.
Yes.
Haynes, was that a yes?
Yes.
Ramon.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Vickers.
Aye.
The motion passes. Consent agenda is approved.
Okay, if anyone in the audience is here for the any consent agenda items, you're welcome to stay if you'd like, or you're absolutely free to leave now. Okay, moving on, regular agenda.
The first regular agenda item is item B, file number Z9564. The proposal name is House of Three Family Care Facility, a special use permit. The location is 8900 Shiloh Drive. The proposal is the applicant proposes to utilize the existing 1,584 square foot single-family residence at 8900 Shiloh Drive as a family care facility for up to 6 residents over the age of 60. Staff analysis follows. The applicant, Clara Renia White, proposes to occupy the single-family residence at 8900 Shiloh Drive as a family care facility known as House of Three Dignity Assisted Care. The applicant notes that the facility will serve as an alternate to a nursing home and will provide care for no more than 6 residents over the age of 60, staffed with 2 trained caregivers. Ms. White notes the following with respect to the proposed family care facility. We specialize in caring for the elderly that suffer from memory loss, chronic diseases, and those needing physical help with activities of daily living. As the homeowner and caregiver, this is not my primary residence. Residential home care and supervised services will be provided 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The existing two-car wide driveway on the property will allow for the parking of 4 vehicles. The applicant notes that the parking will be for caregivers and visitors. The applicant also notes that the residents will not have vehicles. The applicant provided a bill of assurance for the Shiloh subdivision, which was recorded in 1976. The bill of assurance notes the following: lots in this subdivision shall be used for residential purposes only. According to an area survey, there are no other transitional residential facilities within the 1,500-foot property boundary. The occupancy as proposed conforms to section 8-406, paragraphs A and B of the code. Staff does not support the requested special use permit to allow a family care facility at 8900 Shiloh Drive. Although staff survey revealed no other residential living facilities within 1,500 feet of the site, and the proposed occupancy will conform with section 8-406 of the code, staff feels that the proposed family care facility is too institutional in nature for this existing single-family residential site. Staff believes that a nursing home type facility with up to 6 residences, 2 around-the-clock staff, including overlap and shift change times, and the potential for visitors for the 6 residents is too intense for this single-family subdivision. Staff believes the applicant should seek a residential location fronting a more major roadway, possibly along the perimeter of a single-family subdivision. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends denial of the requested special use permit to allow a family care facility. This concludes staff presentation.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present today? Okay, yeah, if you'd like to approach the podium, state your name and any comments about the application.
My name is Clara White.
Okay, and you might want to pull the mic down just a little bit more so our commissioners and folks on the
My name is Clara White.
Thank you.
And first of all, I'd like to know if there is anyone here that's opposed that wants to do a presentation, if I can defer my time to speak after they do theirs.
Absolutely, yes, if you'd like to do that, and each side will have 20 minutes total to present. So if you'd like, is there someone, I've got one green card in opposition, I believe it's Cynthia Campbell. If you will state your name and your testimony about the property.
My name is Cynthia Williams Campbell. I've been a resident of Shiloh subdivision for 18 years. I will freely admit that I have not been part of the homeowners association in the past. We are inactive and in the process of trying to reactivate the homeowners association. I sent you all petitions last night. I hope that you all got them from, I've sent out flyers to various neighbors and they have signed petitions in denial, against support for this facility in the neighborhood. If you know of anyone that is looking for a home, you'll find that they're offering 5 to 10% over the asking price in order to be able to buy a home these days. Shiloh's home prices are stagnant. We have a lot of rental property in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood itself seems to be going down. I talked to one resident that called me a couple of days ago, the Smiths. They indicated to me that they are 80 years old. They live next door to the facility. They've been in Shiloh for 40 years, and they are against the facility. Directly across the street from the proposed facility is a rental home where there is a lot of traffic. And I don't think that we need anything else. And as far as the parking is concerned, if they're parking in the driveway, I could kind of see that, but the driveways on that street are small. They are not long. I cannot see getting 4 cars in the driveway. We have no sidewalks in the neighborhood. And so most walkers walking the neighborhoods are walking on the streets, and we do have a lot of speeders on the streets. Speed bumps, yes, but that does not deter the speeders. I think that allowing a business in a residential neighborhood could be a deterrent to not only raising our home prices, but continuing to have renters in the neighborhood because people cannot sell their homes for what it's worth. I do agree with the comments that you read earlier for the recommendation to deny. I think that all of those comments were solid, and I appreciate your consideration in voting no for this petition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Campbell. All right, I believe that's the only card that we had in opposition. I'm not showing anyone online for this particular item. Okay, would the applicant like to approach the podium?
I am not in agreement to the denial as determined and the recommendations by the staff. And the reason that I am not in agreement for it is, first of all, I lived in that area for 18 years, a little bit longer than 18 years, moved out, and my mom has been a resident in that area for 17 years. A registered nurse by profession. I have 38 years of experience. I am and have been the caregiver for my family members. I have been the caregiver for my mom. My mom she had Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as her sisters. And I provided care for her in her home up until she was not able to drive her car. I have six siblings. And at my mom's home, not only did we provide the health care services that she needed, but we took care of other people in there. We never had to call the ambulance. They never complained about the parking. And it's a big group of us as adults as well as children. But the purpose of me wanting to bring what we're calling a business and to address the fact that you don't want this business in the neighborhood. There are people that are disabled, and there are people that have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. My patients will not be going outside of the home. They will be in the home. And I have asked for the occupancy to be up to 6 residents, but I'm only going to have 3 residents in there for 24-hour care. And the reason that I've asked for 6 is because I'm going to be providing adult daycare as well as respite care. So my 3 residents that are fragile and needing 24-hour care, this care is not where they have to be placed in a nursing home. Our elderly people do not want to be in a nursing home, and it's their choice. And so I'm going that extra mile because none of my family members, my mom had 14 siblings, and neither of them were put in a nursing home because the family took care of them. As far as any other people coming in and the overlapping of the time, someone will be there 24 hours a day. but I cannot stay there 24 hours a day. My ultimate goal is to get my facility up so that I can put them in the facility. So this is going to be short-lived in there. We don't have to worry about being concerned about having the ambulance in there being called, because I will be abiding by the residential care rules and regulations. There will be house rules. I will, right now I have security at the house. I will have security at the house as well. I am a CPR instructor and an educator. All of my staff will be educated. And if in the event, if something happens and they need emergency care, I have an AED defibrillator so that I can assist my patients until an ambulance is there. They have the right and they will have an opportunity to sign the status. I will know how many visitors will come. So these things will be documented, and the neighbors won't even know that there is an Alzheimer's care facility right there in the neighborhood. I do have, I submitted my petitions and my support letters as well. And I do have support of the neighbors. And I would, and I pray that you all vote that I can continue to take care of our people right there in the neighborhood in a safe environment. Alzheimer's and dementia patients like routine and they like structure. They don't want to be in a nursing home in institutions. They want to live in a home environment, and they will have a ratio of 3-to-1. So they don't have to go into the nursing home, worry about not being cared for because their family members can't come to see them. My family is out of state. I am here in Arkansas taking care of family members. And I don't think that we're going to have so many visitors in there that they can't park in the driveway. Thank you.
Ms. White, you might want to stay at the podium. I've got a couple of questions, but I'm going to check and see if any of the commissioners have any questions
Mr.
first.
Chairman, I have a question.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, Madam, you spoke of it will be a short term at that location if it's passed. What is your timeline?
What is my timeline?
Yes, ma'am.
As long as it takes to get the facility up. I do live in Benton, and if the groundbreaking doesn't start before September, my residents will be able to come to my own home where I can take care of them. But my ultimate goal and my plan was to allow my mom's home to be available for family member and anyone else that wanted residential care from a nurse.
So this facility will be a new construction?
Yes,
that would
it
be
will.
started breaking ground in September of this year?
Yes,
Okay. So I presume that then the total capacity will probably be over a year before everything is probably moved into at the earliest?
exactly.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a few questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So where is this new facility going to be located?
Going to be in Benton.
Okay, and this is your mother's old home that
That-
you're in right now?
That's my mom's home. My
What you-
mom is deceased, and I am now the owner of the home.
What year was the home built in? I mean, approximate.
Mr. Clarence and them have been there 45 years. The house is, I think,
Yeah.
46 or 47 years old.
Okay. And is it single story?
Yes, it is single.
Is there any sort of fire suppression,
Any what? I'm
any
sorry.
fire suppression involved in the house? And, like, in case there's a fire, will sprinklers come on? or-
It's going to cost me $5,000 to put that in there. If you all approve it, I already have people that's willing to come in and put that in there.
Okay.
I'm going to, like I said, all rules and regulations. I do want the home to be licensed. So once I've received the permit, I can go ahead on and apply for licensing and do everything that the guidelines and the requirement is expecting of me.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question for staff. If I'm not sure if staff counsel's here this evening, but
John's on the
Oh,
He's on,
sorry, he's
Commissioner
okay.
Ramon.
So as I read the statute or the ordinance that's set forth in the agenda, 3654, Part B of that says there shall be a presumption that a special use permit for a group home of 5, 6, 7, or 8 handicapped persons will be granted if all ordinance requirements are met. And then it goes on to say, except for individuals who would constitute a direct threat to the health or safety. So when I read the staff recommendation, I'm wondering what were the issues or concerns that overrode the presumption that the special use permit would be granted in this situation? Because I don't see in the ordinance too institutional in nature for the existing residential site as a basis to overcome that presumption. But I'm not familiar with the ordinance, so I'm hoping you can educate me.
Well, Commissioner Ramon, the increase of the use, and Mr. Overton can chime in on the reading of that specific chapter of our code. But it's if you read that, it's traffic, it's safety, it's other instances. So just because that says should be considered or granted it's also if they're parking and the parking can't be allowed to fulfill the full deal of that residence, then yes, it can be a safety issue and a traffic issue. Then you also look at the delivery of stuff that is needed for that type of operation. From food preparation, what is the trash, situation in there, how that's going to get picked up. That's more than just a residential potential trash bin type use. And so those are things that we need to look at for that type of situation. As we understand it, even though, and it was presented to us by the applicant, that at one time, I believe she did talk about that the what was going to be there were not going to drive, if I remember that is what they said. But when we looked at it, I do not believe that can be a condition that can be applied to this special use permit. So we have to take that into consideration when we review this. So the parking condition and with the 2 employees that is going to be providing the care has to be taken into that consideration.
I guess my concern is just that the ordinance gives a presumption that it's proper. I don't know, that causes me a little bit of heartburn. If it were the other way around, that the presumption would be that it was not to be granted, I would be much more comfortable.
I understand, but that was the way it was written, but it had that caveat in it about the traffic and some other situations.
Mr. Chair. Scott.
Oh, yeah.
It's me.
Looking around like who's talking?
Oh, am I in proper sequence? Can I ask the same question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I've been around when the special use permit was designed years ago, and it was for different kinds of group care homes, disabled, halfway houses, things like that. So I understand this staff going around down the track of institutional, but I don't necessarily agree with that. It's a group care home. I'm familiar with a lot of group care homes in residential neighborhoods. If this home can be up to code as a residential home for group care, then I think Commissioner Ramon's instincts are right that the presumption is that would meet the spirit of the special use permit. I will say one thing about one of the conditions the applicant had is it would restrict it to those 60 and over, and you really can't do that under fair housing. Any senior housing can't do that. If this were to be approved, I don't think that would pass muster. So anyhow, I'm as a commissioner who's seen special use permits in the past, this qualifies more as a group home than an institutional home, and we do have plenty of those in the city. If this is considered a unsafe house to have group home, then that is a different matter, but that's a code issue.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Barry, Commissioner Barry. Any other comments from commissioners?
I would like to add that there are 3 other House of Threes that's here in Arkansas. The first one was in Mapleville in 2012, and they stopped licensing them. And now at this point, people are going into administrators of nursing homes have opened up their own homes for things like this. And like I said, I have 2 homes, and I'm willing to even go that much more further to ask the city of Benton to allow me to take in patients in my own home until my facility comes up.
Ms. White, I had a couple of questions as well. You may have covered this, and I may have missed it, but will you be managing the facility? Is this a facility you would be there daily?
Yes, you have to have a licensed person there to administer medications.
Right.
Any diabetics, anything that's going on with Alzheimer's and dementia patients, there has to be a nurse there for 8 hours. I don't have to be there around the clock, but I am available for them. I do have other nurse friends and family members that's certified that can do the same thing, and they're not going to be staff that's going to be paid.
Okay. Second question is that certainly seeking approval from this body. Are there other bodies or entities that you'll need approval from in order to operate the facility?
Yes, the Department of Human Service, because I have to adhere to the rules and regulations of assisted care living.
Okay.
Chair, if I may.
Question. Commissioner Brooks.
Go ahead, Commissioner Brooks.
Thank you. You spoke on if the groundbreaking does not happen in September, what will be one of the reasons that the groundbreaking will not take place?
The cost of the lumber, that's what my problem is. I mean, right now, my contractors, they're doing the best that they can to get it at the price that they originally quoted, but we've had some obstacles to overcome.
Okay. Second question, I live close to the Shallow community, and I'm a little concerned simply because I know the traffic that comes through there. I'm also aware of the streets not being wide enough for parking on the streets, as well as emergency vehicles being able to access coming in and out. And I see that is going to be an issue with people coming to visit their loved ones at this home.
They can come and visit them, but here again, because of the nature and the history of Alzheimer's patients, and the reason that I am doing this is for people that family members do not live in Arkansas. When you get family members like myself, that your family isn't here, you don't want them to be in an institution, you want them to be in a home environment. So if these people come to visit their families, they're coming on vacation time. They're coming during vacation time. They're not coming on a day-to-day basis. And from the history, as well as me being a supervisor in a nursing home, once people put their elderly people in an institution or in a facility, they very rarely come to visit them.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff. Special use permits, seemed to me there used to be a renewal period for that. Is that correct? No, not anymore. Okay.
There's not a renewal period, Chairman Berry, or Commissioner Berry. The Chair, if I may, I'd like to, I think we've mixed some definitions in some of our conversations through here. So let me be clear. This is considered a family care facility. It's not a group home or a group care facility. Let me read the family care facility definition. It means a facility which provides resident service in a family-like environment to 6 or fewer individuals and not more than 2 staff personnel. These individuals require a minimum level of supervision and are provided service and supervision in accordance with their individual needs. Now, a group care facility is a facility providing shelter, counseling, and other rehabilitative services to no more than 6 but fewer than 16 residents and not more than 3 staff or supervisory personnel. the individuals require some level of supervision or care. However, no medical or nursing care shall take place on the site. The facility shall be licensed and are approved by the state of Arkansas. And I believe when Commissioner Berry started talking about some of the others, that falls underneath also that group home, and we have those. And they are part of also some ADA requirements they have to do, and that's what falls underneath this one. A group home means a facility that does not fall within another defined facility category within this section, and which provides housing in a family-like environment to no more than 4 handicapped individuals. This use is permitted only as a special use as designated in this chapter. So there is, we're defining this as a family care facility.
But then there's no presumption of anything in a family care facility.
No, a family care facility, and that's where I wanted to make sure we clarified that before we went into that scenario.
So the presumption only attaches to a group home, which is something else.
Yes, and you wasn't here. I think, Commissioner Berry, you can, I think it was a couple of years ago, we had one that come through that we looked at. And there was some, because of the federal guidelines to that, it was rehabilitative services, and as long as they do not do more than 4 in there, and they have the space that is provided in the rooms, because we have to go by some guidelines for that, the size of the room and the access, then that does fall underneath that section of the code.
And we're in C, 6 considerations that we should take.
Yes, and that's where I was talking about the traffic scenario and the deliveries and the trash and other measures that we look at for when it becomes, and when we talk more institutional, that's when it's that family care facility. That is the more institutional aspect of that.
Okay, thank you, Director Collins. That was very helpful. Ms. White, one other question that I did have. So upon completion of the new facility, what will happen with this particular property?
I'm going to sell it and get out of Shiloh because, like I said, I lived in there in that area, and my house got broke into 4 times, and I moved and had my home built in Benton. And as a result of the people that's complaining and fussing about the neighborhood, they're not doing very much inside of what's going on. So as soon as my family members and patients are no longer in need of my mom's home, I will sell it.
Okay, and that would be, again, with the new facility, that would be a causation for no longer need.
If it doesn't get accomplished by this weekend, because I've already got people asking to purchase it.
Question for staff, does a special use permit reside with the property or reside with the applicant?
It resides with the applicant.
Okay.
If the property is sold or they move the use, then the special use permit goes away.
Okay.
Chair, one more question, or a couple. I thought this was not a property owned by you. Do you lease the property or how?
It's my house. My mom is deceased now, and I am the owner of it.
Okay, previously I didn't hear that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners or comments by staff?
I have a question that may be silly, I don't know, but can a special use permit be granted for a specific period of time?
It's a good question, Commissioner Benton. There is not anything in the codes that specifies that. It does specify that conditions can be set on special use permits. I will have to defer some of that to the city attorney. Is Mr. Overton on the line?
I am. And it doesn't state in our ordinances, and I don't know anything in state law that would say that it has to run indefinitely. I think if you wanted to put a condition on it, I think it'd have to be reasonable, though. I don't think you could do like a limit, like 6 months, make the applicant come in and renew. But I think if you did something at a specific duration that was reasonable, that it would be, that would be okay. I just don't think we can make it a burden upon the applicant to have to continue to come in and get permission to run their operation after we already approved it. But based on the approval, we don't know how this is going to operate. So we don't know if there's traffic concerns. We don't know about the public safety, health, and welfare. So if you did approve it for a limited time so that we can make that determination, I think that it would be fair to come back before the commission. If that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I only ask that because she has plans to build later on. The neighborhood individuals have problems concerning too. So we might be able to merge both concerns with a particular time for the permit. And then if she can't build and there's a problem identified, then the use permit can be expired.
I would not have a problem with that. I think that could be a condition that if the commission approved, that we really don't know if there's going to be any public safety, health, and welfare issues at this point. We don't know about the traffic problems that may be presented to the neighborhood. And so we put that as a condition. I think that would be completely reasonable. If the applicant would be okay with that condition of approval.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a nice compromise strategy. I think kind of the process in doing so, I'd follow direction from you, Director Collins, how you might move forward with that approach. Is that something that the commission can add to, or is that something that the applicant would need to come back and file?
Well, first, I think we need to, and the city attorney can chime in if I'm saying this wrong. There is underneath our ordinance and also state law, the ability to discuss items like that. But I think when we start discussing conditions that are on that was not part of the original application that come in, then we don't really need to be proposing that. That is something that needs to come from the applicant on what that condition is meant. But it does not need to be construed that in order to obtain either one side vote or another, either for or against on an item that needs to happen or be portrayed like that to the applicant. So I think that that's a level of negotiation at the podium that I think that if we get to that level, that may be more prudent to defer the matter for 30 days so that we can pursue that request by the commission to see what the applicant is willing to do to come back before the commission rather than imposing that at the hearing we're about to make the decision on. But I will leave that to the commission, and then Mr. Overton can chime in if there's anything different he'd like to add.
No, I agree. We've always have taken the position that we don't really like to change applications because the applicant may make a decision under duress and then later on regret it. And so, but I'm not sure if that rises to the level, Jamie, that we're concerned about. But if the commission is willing to defer this and if the applicant's willing to defer it to kind of work out a few more details and let's look at this a little bit more closely, that's an option.
Yeah. Okay. No, I appreciate that. I'm going to make a suggestion as the chair that we defer this and take in consideration different strategies and that give us a chance to kind of look at ways that this works well for the applicant and certainly the concerns of the neighbors. So I'm going to make a motion that we defer this until the next meeting.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
I think the applicant, see if they're.
Yeah, and absolutely the applicant, if that's something that you would be comfortable with.
My only concern and question is, with the plans that I have, in order to meet rules and regulations for licensing, I have to get a water sprinkler system and all these things put in. I am not, I guess, I don't want to have to spend money on something that you all are not going to approve. So as it stands for today, just leave it like it is and wait until what comes up the next 30 days.
And I would say, would that be more of a question for staff in terms of the requirements? Is that something with the deferral recommendation, would that additional time be available to the applicant?
Talking additional time to do,
Modifications to the facility.
well, we would not be able to release any permits for a use that has not been approved. That kind of falls in line of staff approval, and so that puts that in jeopardy. So I guess before the commission is, if the applicant does not want to defer the item, and I just want to make it clear to the applicant that deferral is to the next commission meeting, which would be the first Thursday of May is our next available meeting. Mr. Herndon, if you look at the.
It is May 13.
Okay, so, so that is the time frame for the deferral. If you choose to be okay with that, if you want to be heard on that, I think that we have to hear it based upon without that condition, in place. Mr. Overton, do you concur with that?
Yeah, and applicant, this is Sean Overton. I'm the city attorney. And based on your comments, I can appreciate your concerns. And at this point, I'm really uncomfortable kind of deferring this because, one, I'm afraid that you might get the thought that the planning commission might approve the project based on the deferral, and that's not the case. And then secondly, I don't want you to feel like you're being bullied. Are you feeling that way?
Yes, I am, because the thing of it is, staff is saying, I need to put them in an institution. I want them in a home. They need home environment. And in order for this facility to be licensed, because I am a medical provider, I have to get things in place. I've got to get this water sprinkler system up. I've got to get the extinguishers and things put in place. So I'm delayed and I'm delayed, where originally I've been delayed because of the way that my paperwork has been going through. I've been dealing with this for almost a year now.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my recommendation, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
And it is frustrating.
Yes, ma'am. My recommendation, Chair, is to vote on the application. I think Jamie gave a very clear definition of what the use is. And I think that y'all can look at the public safety, health and welfare and the traffic issues and make a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, we have a motion on deferral, has to be voted on first.
Or can I remove my motion? Can I retract my motion?
It was already seconded.
Okay.
Mr. Overton, there has been a motion on the floor and seconded already for a deferral. Can that deferral be removed, or do they need to make a vote on that deferral?
I would go ahead and vote on the deferral to clean up the record and then allow her to present her application.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So hearing a motion and a second, if we can do a roll call vote on the ask for deferral.
One moment, please. Roll call regarding the motion and second to defer. Barry?
No.
Benton?
No.
Brooks?
No.
Hamilton?
No.
Hart?
No.
Haynes?
No.
Ramon?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Vickers?
No.
Vogel?
No.
The motion to defer fails.
Okay, so that puts
Mr.
us.
Chairman?
Sure, Commissioner Vickers.
I have a question for the applicant. Madam, it seems like this is a pressing time. You said you've been dealing with this for over a year. Is that correct? And I can see, I think the good that you're trying to do in this. Also, I see what the neighborhood association, well, the former neighborhood association is trying to see as well. and I know the concerns to you is about maybe your clients that you're trying to get in there. Where are your clients at now, and what's the timeline for them? Is there opportunity that you may lose those clients? Is there any way you can kind of speak to that too? So I think the commissioners and the staff can have a better appreciation of what your timeline and what you're trying to do. It seems like it's a sense of urgency at this point right now.
My patients are admitted according to the guidelines. With Alzheimer's and dementia patients, I have private payers that their families aren't able to continue to provide care for their mom. So they're wanting their mom to be placed in my care so that they can go on with their normal routine in life. Anyone else, the other two that I'm going to bring on would be patients discharged from the hospital. And as a case manager doing discharge planning, patients can't stay in the bed waiting for placement. Come in, we give you a discharge date, and we know what your disposition is going to be so that you can be admitted right away. But I still have to pass codes in order to get these patients.
Okay, and one other thing. So basically, you're saying you were asking for 6 residents' cares, but there will only be 3. Is that correct?
That's going to be their 24 hours because of offering respite care. If someone wants to go on vacation, and they need to have their mom gone for 2 weeks, I have a bed in my home that they can stay with me until they come back from vacation.
Okay. And you are only taking patients or resident care for what specific medical conditions, is that correct?
Exactly. Alzheimer's and dementia. They can have chronic diagnoses. They can have blood pressure problems. They can have diabetes problems, asthma, but and they can even be in hospice care. I'll take care of them, with dignity and respect until their death. But that is the purpose, and that is why it's called House of 3, because it's going to be 3 people. But I have the liberty to, do the respite care to give people breaks.
Thank you.
And Ms. White, currently there's only one patient that's being cared for in the property.
Illegally, there's been 3 people that have been taken care of in there that nobody even in the neighborhood knew about.
Okay. Hearing no additional questions or comments, we'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I move that we grant the special use permit in item B, file number Z9564, as presented with all staff comments and conditions except for the recommendation of denial.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we hear a second?
A second.
Okay. All right, I believe we have a motion and a second, and so I guess again for clarification, this is one that staff has recommended for denial. So an affirmative vote is approving the applicant as opposed to accepting the staff's recommendation for denial. Roll call vote.
Roll call. Barry?
No.
Benton?
No.
Brooks?
No.
Hamilton?
No.
Hart?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Ramon?
Yes.
Thomas?
Just to clarify, no means that I support the application. Is that correct?
Please repeat the question, Ms. Thomas.
Since this was presented, staff did not recommend that this be approved. If I vote no, that means I'm in support of this application being approved.
No, a no vote means that you are voting against approval. A yes vote means that you support approval.
Okay, yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Vogel?
No.
That is 5 ayes, 5 noes, and the motion fails.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the regular agenda is item number 4. That is file number Z560. Excuse me, that is file number Z9560. The project name is Custom Made Properties, planned office development at 2916 West 12th Street. The proposal includes the applicant requesting a planned office development to allow the development of a community resource center on 0.22 acres of property. On the south portion of the property, the applicant proposes to raise and construct a building to be used for staff and employees. On the north portion of the property, the applicant proposes to construct a temporary lodging facility accommodating up to 12 residents at a time. The proposed building setback for the south building, the Community Resource Center, will have a 0 setback from the south and east property lines, approximately 37 feet from the west property line and approximately 93 feet from the north property line. The proposed setbacks for the north building, the temporary lodging facility, will be approximately 68 feet from the south property line, approximately 6 feet from the north property line, approximately 4.7 feet from the west property line, and 12 feet from the east property line. The applicant notes there will be a sign located at the driveway entrance on the front facade of the building facing north. All signs must comply with section 36553, which pertains to signs allowed in office zones. The applicant is proposing a 2-yard rolling bin to be located in the rear of the overall development. The dumpster area must be screened as per section 36-523D of the city's zoning ordinance. All site lighting will be low level and directed away from adjacent properties. The applicant notes the existing fence will remain in use and may be extended to include a 6-foot perimeter fence and gating with secured access. Staff is not supportive of the requested planned development. Staff feels the proposed development and use is too intense for this small lot. The proposed use and building design using cargo containers will be out of character with the immediate area. There are other properties within the area which are zoned to accommodate the proposed use. Staff believes the applicant should consider another larger property for the proposed development. Staff feels the proposed development is not consistent with the development pattern in this area along West 12th Street, and the development would have an adverse impact on the general area. Staff recommends denial of the requested POD zoning. This concludes staff presentation.
Okay, is the applicant present? Okay, thank you. Please step to the podium and state your name and share a little information about your proposal.
Sure. My name is Robert Alexander. And as the gentleman spoke about the proposal, it is to be set up as a resource center on the south side as well as a temporary housing on the north. I guess my question first is, I would like the lady before me, I would like to defer if there's anybody that objects to what I am proposing, to let them speak first.
Okay, I'm not seeing any opposition in the room. Is there anyone that did come in that wanted to speak in opposition of this particular project? Okay, seeing none, looks like there's no opposition in the room.
Okay, so going through this process, work with Mr. Thrower with making sure that I meet all the requirements for the POD that I'm requesting to be rezoned as, and I also sent out information as the 200 feet property search to the surrounding neighbors. I've actually had feedback and calls where they actually support what I'm trying to do in the community because the home that is consistent there now is actually dilapidated. Based on the staff notes that the area is too intense, or what I'm proposing is too intense for the area, I'm not really understanding. As far as the development goes, there's not much development happening right there in that area on 12th Street. Currently, the area is already zoned, or not zoned, but has mixed-use properties. If you look at the property I'm proposing, in front of it is a beauty supply. On the corner is a liquor store. And I think the old IGA building was actually on the corner that is, has been bought and working on being refurbished as well. So just looking to get some feedback on why the staff, proposes that they deny my request. And I'll see if I can answer any further questions.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
I have a quick question for staff. This is not in the Central High School Design Overlay District, correct? It's just back to the west? Okay.
That's my question, though, is it in the 12th Street corridor study plan? They spent a lot of time on the 12th Street corridor revitalization plan, and I think that extended all the way to Woodrow. Anyone on staff can tell me what was suggested in that particular initiative for that area? Walter, do you know?
Commissioner Berry, this is Walter on staff. To the 12th Street study, in this part of the study just proposed land uses, and the land use was mixed use, which is what I think the applicant actually said that.
Okay.
So the idea overall of the 12th Street was to try to have a more traditional development pattern where you didn't push all the buildings back in the back and have parking in the front and things like that. So from that standpoint, this development is doing that. There's not a parking lot in front, with the building behind.
So just what to hang my hat on. I understand staff's comments that this is an intense use in terms of square footage or usage. What are, give me an example of some possible uses for that property.
Excuse me, Commissioner.
I'm asking city staff with their knowledge of the 12th Street corridor study. And maybe that could be a rhetorical question for you, Commissioner Vogel.
I think a mixed use or it would be appropriate. I mean, the office or commercial, all that would be from a use standpoint would be appropriate. The issue that staff is saying in this case is that there might be too much stuff on that one lot. So it's not necessarily that the uses aren't necessarily appropriate. They're just too much. Is that close?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my staff right up, but how much square footage are we talking here for this application?
The square footage proposed by the applicant actually is going to be two buildings. On the first building, it looks highlighted. On the south portion of the property, it will contain a community resource center, approximately 1,050 square feet. Of the existing footprint of the old building. So that building that's currently there, he's going to demolish and reconstruct using the same footprint. In the north portion of the property, it will be a temporary living facility there, approximately 2,300 square feet of building area. It will contain 6 residential facilities with up to 12 residents at a time, ranging from ages 18 to 23, with a typical length of stay of 1 to 7 days.
Thank you.
If I can, I would also like to say that I've actually talked to the Ward 1 director, Director Irma Hendricks, and I received her full support on this as well. So I have talked to people in the community and reached out before coming to this point. So just want to add that to it.
Just a comment in passing for the commission and to clarify, and the applicant, please correct me if I misspeak. The temporary living facility of 2,300 square feet, would that consist of used containers, is that correct?
You could say used, but there'll be new containers actually. But yes, sir, you are correct as far as container style will be the build, yes.
The neutral comment, just to clarify.
What is the nature of the activity going to be going on there? Is it an office? It is a residential space? I'm a little confused now.
Oh, so it's a little bit of both. So in the first building, that's what we spoke about, it's a resource center. So that's going to be, I guess, your office space as you speak. And then in the back with the container homes will be the actual residential, or I guess, the group home, or however you want to put it, but that would be your residential area.
And how many people potentially living there?
It's 12. So I think, I'm not familiar with the name, but I think she misspoke as far as the size. So it's a 2-story building. It's actually about 5,000 square feet. If you look at the total overall square footage of that building.
I think the size of the lot's 9,600 square feet. Thank you.
So is this particular construction or project associated with an organization? Is there a use that's already planned for it, or is it speculative?
It definitely is a use already planned for. So it's a nonprofit ATHC building, which stands for Alexander Transitional Housing Center, that will be taking use of this space. Custom Made Properties will actually be the developer for this space.
I have a question.
For staff, remind me the current zoning of this location is?
Bear with me one moment, please.
Okay.
I believe it's R3, just so you.
That's okay. It is zoned residential R3.
R3, okay.
So Commissioner, I have a question to the applicant. Is there a possible way, if had to, that you could downsize on the square footage to make the staff be for this project?
Commissioner Brooks, is that a question for me?
That's for the applicant, yes.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, if we need to get this to pass, we definitely can come to a mutual agreement. I think once you look at the layout that's kind of shown here, they showed on the screen, it meets all of the setbacks and standards that zoning requires. And it's more of a vertical structure than it is horizontal. But and it also meets the requirements of the amount of parking spaces needed in this area. But if we need to come to a mutual understanding, we definitely can.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments?
I had one. Just out of my curiosity, this is a 1 to 7 day stay for the residents. Is there a particular character of residents staying in the facility?
So we offer an intensive for the students that we pretty much come in. We're going to do a needs analysis. Where basically we're trying to help people who are transitioning out of high school, going into the college, or maybe even not picked the career yet, but looking for resources to help them in the community that they did not get either in high school or from their parents or people in the community. We want to be that resource. So that 7-day stay is more an intensive to help them with skills and training. We offer one of our methodologies, the D method, which is train, house, and educate. So that's what we're looking to accomplish in that space.
Hey, I got a question, Mr. Chairman. This is Commissioner Vickers. You said skills and training. What other skills and training will be offered at the facility?
So we have people that be partnering with the nonprofit that'll be there. So they offer skills, whether it's around construction, anything that they're looking to learn, arts, any other skills they'd be looking to learn outside of, like trade skills for the most part. And of course, the Resource Center will help them with things that they may not have accomplished, such as maybe helping them get their Social Security card, mental health and wellness, just some of the things that you would think they would be missed that they're not getting. That's what we're going to be, that resource.
The property just north of this location, again, what is the property just due north?
Behind the building?
I'm sorry, it actually would be west. Yeah, north and then west. Yeah, I think that's residential, but
Yes.
north, but I'm
Yes, it
actually
is.
into the west, just
Both
west.
of those. Residential.
That is residential,
Yes.
single family?
Yes.
But it's currently unoccupied and also dilapidated. Right there on the corner,
Right, okay.
it's currently unoccupied and dilapidated as well.
I love the idea.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Chairperson, I move that we grant the planned office development found at item number 4, file number Z9560, as presented together with all staff comments and conditions, but for the recommendation of denial.
Okay, we have a motion, second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Again, as like the previous item, this is one where we voting in the affirmative is to approve the project. Voting in the negative is to deny the project. With that, roll call vote.
Barry,
No.
Benton,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Hamilton,
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Haynes, Ramon,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes.
Vogel.
No.
The motion to approve passes 6-3 with one absent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The next item on the regular agenda is item number 3. That is case number Z9573. And that is known as Martindale Accessory Dwelling Conditional Use Permit located at 14014 Crystal Valley Road. Proposal consists of a request for a conditional use permit to allow a single wide manufactured home as an accessory dwelling on the R2 zone property located at 14014 Crystal Valley Road. The analysis as follows. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for the placement of a single wide manufactured home on the property to serve as an accessory dwelling. The property is located on the east side of Crystal Valley Road at Crystal Wood Drive. The site is located just outside the Little Rock city limits, but within the city's extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction. The property is comprised of approximately 1 acre. A 1,342 square foot, one-story single-family residence is located within the south half of the property. A 20-foot by 24-foot accessory garage structure is located at the southeast corner of the property. A concrete driveway from Crystal Valley Road serves as access to the existing residence. The applicant proposes to place a 16 by 76-foot single-wide manufactured home within the rear portion of the property to serve as an accessory dwelling. The proposed home will be located 26 to 28 feet from the rear or east property line and over 50 feet from the front or west property line. The new home will be located over 40 feet from the north and south side property lines. A 10-foot wide drive will extend from the existing driveway to the proposed accessory dwelling with parking for at least 2 vehicles. The proposed residence will have an 8 by 8 foot front porch attachment. A small set of steps will extend 2 feet from the rear of the structure. The applicant notes that the accessory structure will be occupied by family members only and not rented. The applicant also notes that the accessory dwelling will not have separate utility meters. The applicant provided responses and additional information to all issues raised during staff's review of the application. To staff's knowledge, there are no outstanding issues. The applicant is requesting no variance with the proposed conditional use permit. Staff is supportive of the requested CUP to allow placement of a single wide manufactured home to serve as an accessory dwelling. Staff views the request as reasonable. The applicant notes that the accessory dwelling will be occupied by family members only and not rented. There will also be no separate utility meters for the accessory dwelling. The proposed accessory dwelling will not be out of character with other properties in this general area which contain 2 dwellings. Staff believes the proposed accessory dwelling will have no adverse impact on the surrounding properties. Staff recommendation follows. Staff recommends approval of the requested conditional use permit subject to compliance with the following conditions. 1, compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E in the staff analysis and the agenda staff report. The accessory dwelling will be occupied by family members only and not rented. There will be no separate utility meters for the accessory dwelling. The manufactured home must comply with the following siting criteria as per the city zoning ordinance. A pitched roof of 3 in 12 or 14 degrees or greater. B, removal of all transport features from the structure. C, permanent foundation. D, exterior wall finished in a manner compatible with the neighborhood. E, underpinning with permanent materials. F, orientation compatible with the placement of adjacent structures. And G, off-street parking per single-family dwelling standards. That concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present today? Okay, thank you. Please approach the podium, state your name.
My name's Sharon Martindale.
Okay, Ms. Martindale, certainly if you want to share a little bit about the proposal, or we do have one card in opposition, you could certainly allow the opposition to speak first and then.
Yes, I will. I'll allow the opposition to speak.
Okay, the one card I have listed is for a Scott Deaton. Mr. Deaton, yeah, if you approach the podium, state your name and share with us your thoughts.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Deaton. My family has owned the property that adjoins the property asking for the variance since 1987. And of the 3 sides, of course, on the west side, you have Crystal Valley Road. 3 of the other sides, my family owns that adjoining property, a total of about 6 acres back there. I personally own the adjoining property, which would be to the east of where this mobile home would be located. I have 3.5 acres that I personally own back there. I have a family member, my sister owns the property there directly to the north of the property. We have a 2,200 square foot house there on the north property. Our intention is to build a house on the land just to the east of where the mobile home is proposed. So I'm against the mobile home going in there from the standpoint of being a property owner, just because the mobile home is going to be close, right on the property line to not only our current house, but a new proposed house that we'll build back there at a later date. In addition, I'm a real estate broker for Deaton Group Realty. I've been selling real estate here in the Little Rock area for 18 years. Now, historically, mobile homes bring down the value of the area around it. So as a realtor and a broker, I'm opposed to the mobile home variance because it will negatively affect those property values in the area. Historically, that is the case with mobile homes. Last couple of years, the county has actually increased our taxes on our land because they perceive that the value is going up, which again goes to, as a broker, I would hate for a mobile home to be placed in there that historically brings down property values to the surrounding areas. So I'm against the variance because we've got property on 2 of the 3 sides where this property is located, and it could have negatively affect our property values in the future. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, commissioners. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Yeah, hearing none, if the applicant would like to reapproach the podium, please.
I would not like the property value to be devalued either. But this community has, the mobile home is consistent with other homes in the community. And as I said, I wouldn't like to have the value decreased either. And I kind of see where he's coming from. Mobile homes do tend to deteriorate and decrease the value of property. But it's up to the committee. I'm going to leave it up to y'all to make that decision. And I'll be happy with whatever decision you make.
Okay, before you leave the podium, just want to see, commissioners, any questions or any comments from Ms. Martindale by chance?
I had one. About how many of the homes in the area, have other mobile homes as second homes?
You know, I do not know. I've seen another mobile home north of this property. I don't think I've seen any south or east of the property, but I have seen one, I think, north of the property. But the area is, there's several homes on the same side of the road, the property that we purchased, that are in very bad state of repair. Some are even empty.
I've got a question for staff. I'm hoping you can educate me a little bit about the purpose of the extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction and, you know, when it was first implemented, and what the purpose of it is. Why are we, you know, imposing authority in that area?
Well, the main, Mr. Rahman and the planning commission, the remainder of the planning commission, the main reason why the extraterritorial jurisdiction was enacted is so that as a city grows and annexes portions that are currently outside their city limits, that they are, those is in place to, I wouldn't say 100% ensure, but as things develop in that ETJ, at least there's an opportunity to bring it up to code of development prior to annexation. There were limits set, and Mr. Malone over here can explain some of the timeframes. I believe it was the late 80s was the last one. Early 90s was the last one that went in that set that 3-mile range that we're allowed to do that. But that also affects if there's other municipalities close, we are supposed to, if our 3 miles would encroach on somebody else's ETJ, we're to split the difference between the two municipalities. So in general, it is just to help with development and annexation so that when annexed property in, there's a better chance that it would comply with our current zoning codes. So it wouldn't be, we wouldn't annex in a whole bunch of stuff that is legally non-conforming as it goes through there. A municipality can choose to have it or not. The board chose to have it. And then they could also choose whether they're going to enact zoning codes and subdivision codes within the extraterritorial. There are sections of our extraterritorial that we do not exercise zoning jurisdiction. That is the more considered the southwest portion of ETJ. We only enacted subdivision regulations. So that is why we see these now. That is all the west portion of the extraterritorial is zoning and subdivision regulations. And we do enforce in those areas for zoning and subdivision.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay, I was just surprised that there is one additional person in the audience that did want to speak in opposition. I'm going to use discretion to allow that person to speak. So if you could approach the podium and state your name.
My name is Tammy Johnson, and I live at the residence and acreage that's actually on the other side of Mr. Deaton's property. And there are no other manufactured homes on that road. Past the city limits, it's houses with acreage or large houses with big lots. There are no manufactured homes, and I was concerned about it bringing down the value of my home. And I was thinking if they would add on to the existing home on that property, it would increase their property value. I don't feel like adding a mobile home to their existing, to their property would add anything to the value of it as opposed to just adding on to the existing structure. And so therefore I was opposed to the addition of the manufactured home. It's a country rural road. There are no manufactured homes. There's horses, cows. There just aren't any manufactured homes, and we like it that way. I mean, we welcome a new neighbor, but we were hoping that they would improve the existing structure. And that's all I have to say. Do you have any questions for me or?
Commissioners, any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay. Certainly, yes. Yes, we still have remaining time.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay.
So, yeah, I wanted to clarify, again, being a real estate broker, I've got some insight into what's going on. Y'all see here the development. You've got the road there with new construction right around the property where they're asking for the mobile home. You'll see Cobblestone Creek is new construction homes, and new construction has been in the last 10 years or so. But you do have Crystalwood Drive, which is directly across Crystal Valley Drive from where the mobile home would go, is fairly new construction homes. Just down the way, less than half a mile from the property, you have Sierra Lakes, which is a new development that is building $300,000 plus homes. A mile away from this property, you have Plantation Acres, which is an older development, but it's always been bigger, established homes, usually sitting on 3 to 5 acres. So yeah, they're just like the last participant stated, there's not mobile homes in the area. And it's actually the exact opposite. New construction has come in there, and new construction borders, probably borders both of our properties, but it definitely borders my property as well. So there's new construction going on in there. There are definitely some older houses on Crystal Valley Road around this property, and most of those have been renovated or in the process of being renovated, but they're still stick-built homes. There's no manufactured mobile homes in the area. Thank you.
Okay. Any commissioner comments? Okay, seeing and hearing none, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairperson, I move that we accept the conditional use permit found in item number 3, file number Z9573, together with all staff comments and conditions, including recommendation of approval.
Okay, we've got a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and second. Roll call vote.
Barry.
Aye.
Benton.
No.
Brooks.
No.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Hart.
No.
Haynes.
Yes.
Ramon.
Yes.
Thomas.
No.
Vickers.
Yes.
Vogel.
No.
That vote is 5 ayes, 5 noes. The motion fails.
Okay, thank you.
The final regular agenda file. Excuse me a moment, please. Is item G, file number Z9567. Project name is the Cowles in Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority Solar Development. It's a planned industrial development at 6700 Fush Dam Pike. The proposal consists of a request to develop a large portion of the site for a solar development, with the northern portion of the property to continue its use as a barge service company. According to the applicant, the developer plans to construct solar arrays for the Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority and the Central Arkansas Library systems on the site. There will be additional projects on the site in future phases, though the total solar development will not exceed the number of solar arrays shown on the site plan. The applicant proposes to rezone the 73-acre property located at 6700 Fush Dam Pike from R2 Single Family District to PID Planned Industrial District. The rezoning is proposed to allow a solar development with 2 project initiatives in the first phase. One project will serve the Central Arkansas Library System, or CALS, and is proposed to save about $1.2 million on electrical cost over the life of the project. The second project will serve the Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority and is proposed to save about $2.2 million on electrical cost over the life of the project. The applicant proposes that the solar projects for CALS and Little Rock Wastewater Reclamation Authority will occupy most of the cleared land on the site. The north portion of the property will continue to be occupied by the barge services business. The remaining portions of the property will be preserved for future solar clients. The proposed site plan submitted for review shows the total possible occupancy for the solar development. The proposed solar development will consist of approximately 17,500 solar panels. The proposed panels will be located approximately 100 feet from the front property line. The panels will be located approximately 28 feet from the east side property line and 110 feet from the west side property line. The solar development will be secured by a security fence with a maximum height of 6 feet. The fence will be topped with barbed wire for added security. Access to the property will be controlled with a gate. Signage for the property will be located on the fence facing Fush Dam Pike and will comply with section 36544 of the city zoning ordinance. The applicant notes that there will be no site lighting, additional equipment, or buildings on the site. The applicant also noted that the solar panels will not generate noise. The applicant provided responses and additional information to all issues raised during staff's review of the application. To staff's knowledge, there are no outstanding issues. The applicant is requesting no variances with the proposed planned industrial development rezoning. Staff is supportive of the requested PID zoning to allow use of the property as a solar array development and the continued use of the barge services business. Staff views the request as reasonable. The property is located within an area of mixed uses and zoning. Although the proposed development will be located close to several single-family residences, the proposed solar development will be very passive use, generating very little traffic and no noise or light pollution. The proposed industrial zoning will be compatible with the area and should have no adverse impact on the surrounding properties. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the requested PID zoning subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraph D in the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. That concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Applicant present, please approach the podium, state your name and share with us about the project.
Yes, my name is Cam Deacon. I am the Director of Finance and Real Estate for Integrity. Understand that there's one registered in opposition to the project. If I can, I'd like to defer to opposition.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's see, I do have one card. Patricia, I think it's Hewitt, maybe?
Hi, my name is Patricia Hewitt, and I have lived in the Fushdown Pike community all my life. My great-grandfather bought 10 acres of land out there in the late early 1900s, and he divided it amongst his 7 living children, of which my great-aunt Florence got the first section of land. She and her husband, Porter, built a home on that property that is now on the National Registry of Historic Places. My great uncle Porter did ornamental plaster work. He worked on the state capitol. He worked on St. Edward's Cathedral. He worked on Weingarten's home in Texas. He worked all across the U.S. doing ornamental plaster work. My home consists of that plaster work that he did. I've even had buses, small bus, come in and do a tour of my home and then connected it with going to St. Edward's Cathedral and then to the state capitol and then out to lunch afterwards. So this property of mine holds a very dear place in my heart. And I guess my concern is this: the city of Little Rock has numerous places that they already own that could meet the supply of the desires of the manufacturer that wants to put in the solar panels there, that would not have to redistrict anything or rezone anything. I worry about the traffic flow out there. I happen to live on the corner of Fushdown Pike and Richland Drive. So Richland Drive is right down my home. It T-bones right into Fushdown Pike. Richland was built in the 60s, and there are 250 homes back there, plus a school that has gone out of business but has been revamped into different things. It was a youth home, and then it has also housed the police department training center, things like that. So we have one way in and one way out of 250 homes and a business. And unfortunately, there is a stop sign there and there are speed limits there, but the stop sign is not observed, and it's within just a few feet of my driveway. I take my life in my hands every time I get ready to turn in my driveway, wondering if I'm going to get hit by a car. I have called the police department to ask them to come out and please do something about the speeding that goes on out there. Our speed limit is 30 miles an hour. We have cars that drive 60, 70 miles an hour down Fushdown Pike. And they have revamped their phone system to where you leave a message and then they do not return your call. So we have big trucks, we have school buses, we have one way in and one way out for 250 homes that's going to be directly across from where that is. And I'm concerned about the logistics of how that's going to work with also being a bike riding arena out there. We have bikes that come out there, people that ride their bikes out there. And I don't understand how, how they're going to be able to do construction pulling off a Fushdown Pike when they're pulling in just right at a place that only has one way in and one way out for 250 homes and a business. So, and then I'm concerned about, I'm not really excited about the fact that I'm going to look out my kitchen window and I'm going to see razor wire. If you could tell me if you could do something to lessen the, only word I can come up with right now is the strictness of that. If you could kind of put some bushes up or maybe remove the razor wire, things that would enhance it instead of detract from it and detract from my view. And then I'm concerned also because that is, with Richland, it is, all that area out there has been floodplain. And a year ago, we had the big rain that came in. Richland flooded, and people met outside my home, and the fire trucks had to come and pick up the people and take them in to deposit them at their homes. There's just a lot that is going on right there in that general area that I've got real concerns about. Now, there are some things that could happen. I petitioned several years ago that we would, and got numerous, almost more signatures than people that live out there, to get speed bumps put in on Richland Drive where people couldn't speed up there and then take the right turn or the left turn without looking to see if any cars are coming, and that was denied. When we were getting the Fushdown Pike widened and sidewalks put in, the city opened up. There is a back entrance to Richland. The city opened up that back entrance at that time. It cut down on emergency response. It cut down on traffic because there was more than one way in and out for the 250 homes and for the businesses that are back there. I got a petition signed by that, and the city said that they wouldn't reopen that part when they closed it back down. So there are some things that can be done. I will also say that I've talked to Irma Hendricks also, and she knows that there is a tremendous problem out there with all of this. So I see you looking at your watch. Am I boring you? Sorry. There are real problems out there that need to be addressed. And if there's anything that can cut down on that traffic, then I don't have a problem with what's going to go in over there. I have a problem with the way it is right now and with construction work going on, with all that other activity going on out there. And so that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions before you leave the podium? I'd love to see the plaster work that your uncle did. That sounds pretty fascinating.
Oh, anytime.
That sounds really cool. Okay, would the applicant like to re-approach the podium? Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for the comments and suggestions. I think that some of the questions and comments we actually addressed in our application and our plan for the solar array. We're certainly sensitive to the surrounding property owners. We understand that it is residential. So, one of the things that we are planning on doing is putting a significant amount of landscaping along that highway to try to ease I wouldn't call it an eyesore, but we understand that, security fencing is not the prettiest thing in the world. So, any sort of crepe myrtles and landscaping, we're certainly opening to do. We wish that we could get around doing the razor wire. Unfortunately, that is a big insurance issue for us. I mean, we have a lot of electrical components out there. So to keep the surrounding neighborhoods safe and to keep any trespassers from coming in and potentially having an accident, we do unfortunately have to put the razor wire up. So in terms of traffic flow, you know, construction on these projects is typically pretty quick. You know, once we have the land secured and we've gone through all the testing and things like that, and we have our civil design, construction only lasts about 60 days. So there will be some construction traffic through that 60-day period, hauling panels and racking systems in. But outside of that, there will be extremely light traffic. I mean, we're talking maybe one truck a month to go monitor the system. Unless there's some sort of problem or extreme weather conditions. I mean, that's the only time that we have to go really visit it to, you know, to check in on the systems to make sure it's functioning properly. Let's see, from the floodplain perspective, yes, the property is significantly in the floodplain. You know, we're able to determine, you know, through the city what the base flood elevation is, and we can raise all of our electrical components 3 feet above the base flood elevation. So really, the flood is not much of a concern to us. It actually does increase our insurance premiums a little bit, but, you know, we're okay with that. I mean, I know that as residential property owners, floodplain is an issue. So for us, that we kind of are able to eliminate that concern. I mean, that's really it. I mean, the projects that we have planned, 2 1 megawatt arrays for Central Arkansas Library System and a megawatt array for Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority. It's going to save these 2 entities a significant amount of money, in excess of, you know, close to $4 million over the term of the contract. We do think that that's very beneficial to just the city as a whole. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, commissioners, any questions? Okay, hearing none, entertain a motion.
Chairman, I move that we accept this planned development at item number G, file number Z9567, as presented together with all staff comments and conditions, including the recommendation of approval.
Okay, we have a motion. How about a second?
A second.
Motion and second. Roll call vote, please.
Barry,
Aye.
Benton,
Yes.
Brooks, Hamilton,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Ramon,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes.
Vogel.
You step down.
The vote passes 9 with 1 abstention, no opposition. That concludes the agenda items for discussion and commission vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, if I may, I would like to address the commission on some items that I have sent previously to them for review. But first, we're getting to some of those details. I'd like to take a little bit out of order what's presented on here. I would like the chair to entertain and ask for the selection of a committee up to 3 or 4 commissioners. We have some items that I would like to present. One of them is, if you remember, we presented a land use plan amendment for some corridors to the commission. If I may, I would like to request the chair appoint some commissioners to sit on a committee so that we can start looking at this in more detail to present to the rest of the commissioners for a vote. 2, I would also, we talked about this, I think was it last meeting? Might have been the meeting before when we talked about the short-term rental potentially coming up. We are at that point. The time frame is I would like to go to a overall public meeting out in the areas that may be affected by this, and that has not been set yet, in May to bring back before the commission some type of ordinance to look at, to modify, hopefully have a decision sometime in June, early July timeframe to hopefully get it to the board for adoption sometime in that late July, August timeframe. So I would also, so in doing that, the committee would, I would suggest that we entertain a committee of the commissioners to go to those meetings and be part of that change and part of that presentation that's coming back for the commission, and then also potentially up to the board. And then last, after we entertain some of that, I would like to just talk in general about that multifamily development criteria that we was tasked to look at. I'd like to get some comments from some of the commissioners. It doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but we need to present some type of summary and looking at what we would like to propose as a commission to the board, I would believe fairly soon.
Okay. Director Collins, thank you for those. So hearing those, I would first like to entertain the opportunity for a committee to do land use review. Any commissioners that would be interested in serving on such a committee? I would say we limit it to 3. So
Whatever the chair chooses, I would say 3 or 4. At times we've had that, and 5, but is it at your discretion?
Okay.
Commissioner Brooks would like to be on that.
Okay, we have Commissioner Brooks that has volunteered.
What specifically, I guess I'm not clear on the role of the committee. Is the idea that we're looking at, sort of the citywide zoning and trying to determine how to revise some of the land uses, or can you speak specifically to what?
Yes, we can. What was presented previously was we looked at specific corridors, and that's what we would want to sit down with the committee and look at to try to, the staff done the legwork to kind of look at some of the corridors that we would want to potentially change some of the land use plans on. Prior to doing that, we had just went across the city as a whole and did quarters, and I did not believe that that is the true intent of what the Planning Commission's role is, to look at development and growth in a corridor. And there are some that we presented, and so this committee would direct staff on how we would want to look at that area from, going forward from what we've presented. So take our base work and then look at it and comment, to modify it, change it if we need to extend it, that type of scenario, so that we can finish that corridor and then present back to the Planning Commission for discussion for potential adoption.
I love being a part of these committees, but the thing that I struggle with on this sitting specifically is that I feel like I have no background to aid you, and that's it. Like your recommendation is always more informed than whatever I might tell you, and so it's really hard for me at the committee level to say I would be useful in that capacity.
Well, we are more than welcome to sit down with any commissioner at any time and go through any aspect that they would want to learn more about for land use and development. I understand that there's different levels of knowledge of that across the commission, and I believe that's also a good thing, because we get different aspects of development and they hear different things when applicants present their development on there. So I believe that even a commissioner that may feel like they have less knowledge in land use, they may be one of the ones that might need to sit on that, because it brings a different aspect to what we do. Because just listening to engineers and planners on exactly how you're supposed to do corridors or plan corridors may not be the exact way that you may need to do it. We need to take all comments and suggestions into that consideration. So staff is always willing to sit down and present something and do the hard lifting and the legwork for it and everything. I just feel like it needs to be a little bit more commissioner driven to plan this city rather than staff driven.
And
Mr.
Director.
Chairman, this is Hart. I'll sit on that committee.
Okay.
With Commissioner Brooks.
And I would ask that the staff would participate in any kind of support in terms of educating or giving advice and suggestions. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity to learn as well. Okay, we have Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Hart.
I'll also sit on the committee too.
Is it Haynes?
Commissioner Haynes.
Commissioner Haynes, okay.
Yes.
Benton. Good, Chairman, I know you said 3, but I'll sit on there if it's another commissioner.
Okay, well, we'll take the Commissioner Vickers. Okay, so for the Land Use Review Committee, we have the following commissioners that have volunteered: Brooks, Hart, Haynes, and Vickers.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Let's see, second recommendation or suggestion is a short-term rental committee. And again, we'll be asking for volunteers to participate on that committee.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to volunteer for that one.
Okay.
I'll volunteer for that one.
Okay, just a second. So
Tim, would you please repeat that? Thank you.
I will volunteer for that.
Okay.
Did you get Benton?
And correct.
Benton and Ramon
Yes.
and Greg. Okay.
All right, and I'll round that one off. I'll serve on that committee as well. I'll probably stick my nose into the other committee just as well.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, so we have for the short-term rental committee, we have Commissioners Berry, Ramon, Benton, and Hamilton.
What were the other committees? Sorry, I had to.
But yeah, those are the only 2 committees that we're forming at this point. First one was Land Use Review Committee.
Who's on that one?
We have Brooks, Hart, Haynes, and Vickers. Okay, we'll add you as a. Well, yeah, that gets it.
Anything 2 or more, doesn't matter. We'll have to advertise it
Paper.
for that to come in, which is fine. But we also, since it's not acting, we're not going to be voting on anything. I believe that we might be able to hold those also all, via WebEx. We will check into that with the attorney's office since there's no action to be taken.
Point of clarification to the director. With regard to the land use committee, does that include the work you were describing for corridor creation and multifamily development criteria?
That's just for the corridor creation.
Okay, so our land use committee is our corridor.
Yes.
/ corridor, okay. And Mr. Chairman, did I understand you to say that those are the only 2 committees we'll be forming? Are we, as a group, going to address the multifamily development criteria matter?
So, yeah, the understanding there is to get feedback from all commissioners related to the multifamily development criteria.
That's correct. And it doesn't necessarily happen tonight, but I just wanted to kind of, in general, go through and see if we could start a conversation on that one. Staff read through it and just looking at municipality. If you look at what we currently do, looking at the density of the units and aspect of it, I would say, and Walter, he reviewed it too, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Walter, but we believe that we're about 60%, 70% of what is in here, we take care of when we review it for development criteria. But there's other aspects that's in here that I think is advantageous to look at for development. But I also believe that there's some stuff in here that may be a hindrance to and requirement of that pursuant to our current codes and ordinances of requiring developments to have certain things inside the development of a multifamily. Although I do believe some of those that we can go with, and I'll talk about you in a second. But some of the stuff that we do look at is we do look at infrastructure. We do send the plans and everything and comments to well, at the time it was Rock Region. We could do I think a more in-depth study of what some of the public transportation is for apartment complexes. We do the roadways arterial, that's reviewed through Public Works, traffic engineering and such on what the level of road is. So we do know that aspect of it. We do not really go into the transportation as far as internal to the site. But I do believe that some of the stuff that was in there, some of the pedestrian aspects of it, the access, trying to do more of a multimodal, if that's what the commission wants to look at, also is something that could be looked at and incorporated in something like this. Some of the other site design aspects, our codes are written right now that a lot of that site design aspect of is not a requirement in our codes. But as I said previously, some of that pedestrian access, I think, is something we need to look at for multifamily and how they're going to get out to a main roadway and how they're going to get into the city to try to find other modes of transportation other than getting in somebody's vehicle from the apartment and driving to their work, but maybe see what our infrastructure has in place for the future and maybe get a little more aspect of where multifamily needs to be in the city. So did I say that right, as far as about 60% of what we look at roughly? So I think there is some points that were in this guidelines that you saw that we could look at a little bit more in detail. I don't necessarily know that we need to go through a checklist item as presented in what we did, but that is what I wanted to present for discussion. And so and we would entertain that now. We could do it over the next meeting or so, but I would hope that we would look at something within the next 2 or 3 meetings about what we would like to present, staff to present, or if the commission chooses to present something to the board, what they requested on review of this type of study.
I have a couple questions, if it's all right.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
First, should we have a special meeting for this topic, or should we try and incorporate it? I mean, just me, for example, I had a long day, came here, had a few, long speeches. I'm a little tired, and then we still got baseball practice and dinner and all that other stuff. So just wondering, would it be beneficial to have a special meeting explicitly for multifamily discussion?
That is up to the commission.
Okay.
That is not necessarily something that we have to discuss at one of our regularly scheduled meetings. There is a discretion that the special meeting can be called to address, because we're not really doing an action. We could have a work session that we would sit down and we actually go through all this stuff. So yes, that is a potential.
And another question, and this is just a perception rather, but it seems like once it gets to the board of directors for the city that there's a lot of desire to not see multifamily because their constituents come out and oppose it regularly. Is that a fair assessment? Or, I don't want to go through a whole bunch of stuff and then the city board just kind of says, yeah, we got our own way of thinking.
Well, what I can say is the role of the planning commission is to plan the city.
Yeah.
And present ordinances and resolutions and studies to the board for consideration for adoption. So it is a hand-in-hand type situation, but it is the commission's role to do what we're asking to look at and study things. And that's part of the land use plan approval. So when you approve a land use plan and present it to the board for adoption, where you're doing residential high density, that's the multifamily type of scenario that we're looking at. I do believe there's places in the city limits that we need to encourage residential high density, and other places that we do not. There has to be a good mix of density of residential uses within the city. If everything was single family residential, I do not believe that we'd get the density to have the tax base so we could do for the citizens for health, welfare, and protection. For that. So I think a multifamily residential is a need of any city up to when you get to size. I don't necessarily think that a smaller city would fall underneath that, but it could. But definitely the city of Little Rock, with our size, we are not going to get away from having multifamily residential. I think we need to look at locations, look at this guideline that was presented to us and see if we need to look at something different to present to the board, but I think that we need to plan the city as described in the state law, and that is the planning commission.
So would it be wiser for us to try and identify 10, 20 places where multifamily works and then make that the recommendation, or make a recommendation to how to steer the, direction toward those?
Well, that could always be part of the recommendation that is incorporated into the land use plan. So as we look at this and go through it, if the commission wants to study and have staff study areas that would be more advantageous for multifamily, that is an aspect that can be done.
How much time do y'all need to do those studies?
Well, it depends on the breadth of the study, whether we could do it at staff level or whether we have to contract it out for an outside firm to look at it. It could be 6 months, it could be longer to look at that type of study. Because if it has to go outside, then we would have to go find the funds or allocate the funds or budget the funds on upcoming years to do that. But the commission is well within their right to ask that of staff. Okay.
Definitely be supportive of something that didn't try to cram every ounce of productivity into.
Okay.
It's not.
So it sounds like 2 for a special meeting sometime. Commissioner Berry shaking his head, so it's.
That's it, straight.
So okay, then I will leave the discussion at that. I will meet with the chair. We will come up with a special meeting date or a work session, and we'll try to get that scheduled. Okay.
Is there a preference for day or night?
I work best today in the morning. How about y'all?
That'd be fine, of course,
Depends on which morning.
since we're already kind of geared towards Thursday afternoon at 4, I mean, that's another one. Or if the staff wants to pay for pizza when we start coming back to physical locations for
That's
meetings.
pizza it is. We've done that before.
Do we have a second for pizza?
Yeah.
Okay, we got motion.
I get to choose.
Roll call vote.
I get to choose the pizza though.
Okay, yeah, Director Collins, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll work with you and I will get some dates out for a working session on the multifamily.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, any other comments, any public comments tonight? Hearing none, I will accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
Do we need a vote?
I think you can do a voice vote this time. No roll call needed on that.
It's been moved and second. We are adjourned.